Hi everyone, I'm Carol Keller, an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Illinois in the United States, and I have for you today a Peekaboo flap card that is surprisingly easy to make but gives a big impact. Let's get started. Here is the card I have today, and it's called a Peekaboo flap card because it opens like that. And it looks complicated, but if you follow the steps, it's pretty easy. All right, let's get started. We are starting with a fresh Freesia card base, typical A2 or A4 size. And the first thing we're going to do is put on a layer of designer series paper or DSP. This is from Masterfully Made, and it is 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches or 10 centimeters by 14.4. I'm going to put that on with my Stampin' Seal. And then you can use different things to make your flap. You can use circle punches, you can use other shapes, but I'm using the Stylish Shapes dies, the squares, and I'm using the second two largest, or the second and third largest, I guess I should say. And again, you could use the circles from that set would work well too. The deckled rectangles would work, but this is what I'm using today. So I'm just going to position this in the middle, and I just eyeballed it, but you could certainly measure to make sure that it's in the middle. And I'm going to, of course, open up the card and run that through my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. And in the meantime, I'm going to take this again and run it through a second time on a scrap of fresh Freesia. And that scrap needs to be at least 2 3/4 inches square or 7 centimeters square so that it fits this die. And I'm also going to cut from the Beautiful Balloons dies, the little tail here for the balloon, and I'm going to cut that in Pretty Peacock. And then last but not least, I have another scrap, also 2 3/4 inches or 7 centimeters square. And this is from the Soft Shimmer 12 by 12 specialty paper. And this is Berry Burst. And for this, I am going to cut a shape out to outline my diamond. So all you do is position the first square on your designer series or on your specialty paper, and then position the one inside it and just making sure it's exactly centered. And then I'm going to run that through the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. And once I've done all 3 of those things, I'll be right back. And this is what I end up with. This piece that's from the center is just extra, so you can use it on another project. And then we're going to peel these layers apart. And then this will actually also be used on another project. So our next step, we're going to attach the border to one of these. And so I'm just using my multi-purpose liquid glue with that. You could put an adhesive sheet on the back, but this paper is already thick, so it makes it harder then to get a good cut. So I recommend glue instead. I've got a new one, so I want to make sure it doesn't come out too heavy. I'll put some along the edges. And then attach this to one of the squares. Isn't this paper gorgeous? I just love the shimmer and sparkle. And then next we're going to put, I've cut some designer series paper and a flap. The flap is, or the hinge, I guess. Sorry, it's just a little sticky. That's the one thing you have to beware of, is that when you put your adhesive, you have to put it only around the edges when you're putting the DSP on, and there was a little bit of overlap, so there are a couple of sticky corners, but they won't interfere with the project at all or laying any of it out. So our hinge is 1 inch by 3 1/2 inches or 2.5 by 9 centimeters, and we're going to score it. So I'm going to bring in my trimmer just to show you how to score it. Sometimes it's easier to see than to just say. And we're going to score it at 3 centimeters or 1 1/4 inches. So I'm using my 1 1/4 inches on this side, and we're just going to score it. So you see there's a longer side and a shorter side. longer side, shorter side. And then I have 2 pieces of DSP, and they are cut at 3/4 of an inch by 1.5 or 2 centimeters by 3.5 centimeters. And what you're going to do is overlap the hinge. And the reason you're going to do that, this part and this part are not going to show because they're going to be covered by this on each side. But you want to overlap because this is the part that's going to show. Let me show you here. And also on the inside. So we're going to just grab some seal and put those on. So there's not an exact measurement for overlapping, but just so that you can hide, or I guess have fancy paper where it's going to show. So we're going to do the same thing here. Let's see, which way do I have that going? We'll do it this way so that they match. And so now we're going to fold where we scored, and see, again, we've intentionally gone beyond the fold, and we're going to, whoops, put it on the card. And I did have trouble. This one was definitely not in the center, so I'm going to try to get it a little more in the center by looking where my triangle is here, because it's meant to go like this. And so I'm going to put my seal on just the back. That's going to be attached to the inside of the card. And you want the hinge, or the scoring to be right at the edge of the card. So like this. So this is probably the easiest way to do it. Then you've got it right at the edge of the card. And then we're going to hide that by taking another piece of cardstock, the same size as the same color, as the inside. That's what I decided to use. You could use just basic white. And this is your typical second layer. So 4 by 5.25 inches or 10 centimeters by 14.4. And then we're just going to lay that in also with some seal so that it hides our little hinge. And now we're ready to roll with some stamping. So this is how I did it. I have the balloon stamp that comes from the Beautiful Balloon stamp set and some Berry Burst ink. And what I want to do is I want to have it on the inside and also on a scrap. So I'm going to bring in the scrap right away so I don't forget. That might be the easiest way to do it. So I'm going to first move that flap out of the way. And as you can see, we want the stamping to be underneath that flap. So the way I made sure of that was to stamp it through the little window here, because then I was sure it was underneath. So I'm going to put a balloon up here. And then without re-inking, I'm going to put one here because I want this to be lighter. I'm going to do the same thing again on my scrap because we're going to cut this out for the inside. And then without re-inking, I'm going to grab my envelope and I'm going to put one down here in the corner. And we'll put that aside for right now. Oh, and then that's right. While we have the Berry Burst, I'm going to do the tail on the balloon. So I'm not inking the whole thing because again, well, I guess we could. Maybe it will fit. It looks like maybe it will just fit. So we will ink the whole thing since I have my balloon a little bit to the side. And there's our tail. And then I did it on the inside off to the side. Oh, that's right. I did it off to the side, but that's okay. We'll just do it straight down. And then the same thing here. Now here I am going to clean that stamp to make sure that we don't have ink on the bottom because I am going to just stamp part of it to go this way. I was thinking that this is what I was stamping. I think we will stamp off too. So I'm stamping off to the side. Sorry, out of camera view, and then adding that little tail there. So now we are done with Berry Burst and we've got some sentiments to stamp. So I'm going to bring in Pretty Peacock. And the sentiments come from the Pansy patch stamp set. Been using the sentiments from this a lot lately. This one says, wishing you a little extra happiness just because you're you. And we're going to stamp that right over this. And then on the inside, we're going to stamp happy birthday from that same set. And so it is going to overlap that tail, but it's dark enough that it will still show. Then we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to bring in that envelope and I'm going to stamp happy birthday right here. So our envelope is done and all of our stamping is done. So you just have to cut this out, and I'm going to do that and be right back, and we'll continue with assembly. All right, so to finish the assembly, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put that flap over like this, and we're going to lay the front piece down so we know that it's going to fit right in there. So I'm going to put some seal right here. Oops, you could also use multi-purpose liquid glue. I might have to take that extra seal up there. And so now we've got our flap. Yep, got a little bit of ink on there. I'm going to get my ink eraser and get rid of that to get it out of the way. So that doesn't interfere. And now we're going to take this extra one and we're going to put it right here. So again, I'm just going to use my seal. And we're going to hide that other edge of the flap. So we're going to put that right over. And then we're going to take some more seal and put on the other elements over here. I'll move that over just a little bit. Yes. And then I did put an adhesive sheet on the back before I ran this through the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. Or you could use your liquid glue to adhere it. And then this goes right here. So it fits nicely right in that space. And our card is complete. Oh, well, almost complete. Haha, we need our bling first. But there it is. We just need our bling. So for the bling, I ended up using two different Tinsel Gems packs. This is the 3-pack and this is the 4-pack. And I used it because of the colors I needed. This is Fresh Freesia, which of course we use for our card base. This is Berry Burst, which we used for this and is in the DSP. And this is Pretty Peacock, which we used again for the stamping. So I'm going to grab my Take Your Pick tool and we're just going to, I use the smaller ones. We're just going to kind of put those around here to draw your eye. I think we'll put the Fresh Freesia one this time here and the Berry Burst up at the top like that. And now our card is complete. What do you think? Not so bad. It's just a matter of taking it step by step and then you end up with an adorable card. So I hope you like that. Let me show you quickly what I used to make the card. I used the Beautiful Balloons stamp set for the balloon, of course, and the little string. And there is a nice happy birthday sentiment in there. And then I used the Pansy Patch stamp set for the sentiment. And you could do it the opposite way too. You could put the happy birthday and the balloon on the outside and then put this on the inside. But I just, you know, personal preference, you could do it either way. And I use this happy birthday because the fonts match. And then for our dies, I use the Beautiful Balloons dies to cut out the balloon and to make the little streamers for the one on the inside of the card. And then of course, one more time, the Stylish Shapes dies, whoops. So again, the circles would work well, but I liked using the square and making it into a diamond, and I hope you did too. Last but not least, we have our paper. This is the specialty paper that we use the Berry Burst for, the Soft Shimmer 12x12 specialty paper. So the colors are Berry Burst, Bubble Bath, Lost Lagoon, Night of Navy, and Pretty Peacock. Aren't they pretty? I just love that little It's a soft little sparkle. Shimmer is a good word for it. So then when you give someone the card, they have that little shimmer too. So a little crooked. Sentiment's a little crooked, but that's what happens when you're live and doing it on camera. The other designer series paper that I used was Masterfully Made. And these are the papers that come in that set. This obviously is the one that we used. And then the other sides. I love this because it has such bright, bold colors. And so it makes such a bright, bold card. And yet we tone down the brightness a little bit by using the fresh Freesia that's in the flowers. So I hope you like it. Thanks so much for joining me today and for watching. If you like what you see, please subscribe to my channel. Click on the bell and you'll be notified when I post new videos. Take a look around. I have many other card videos, scrapbook pages, home decor items, tips and techniques, beginner videos, hopefully something for everyone. So again, thanks for joining me and I'll see you again soon. Happy stamping.